Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and it seems that at least 45,000 of you also like to listen to me talk about politics on at least 2 occasions, because that's what we've done now. We've got up to 45,000 subscribers. Each 5,000 subscribers I tend to mark with a little bit of a look at the channel, or what I did on this particular occasion actually was to just throw it out on the community tab on the channel and just say what are some suggestions for things to talk about. Some people were suggesting actual topics for videos. I pugged some of those away. It's not really what I was getting at. Some people asked some quite interesting questions about, like more personal attitudes towards politics rather than my take on newsworthy politics. I may do one of those tomorrow. I may split this into 2 parts, because what I wanted really was suggestions on talking about the channel, and a couple of people asked a couple of questions about that. So that's what I'm going to go through on this one. I'll be going over how the channel's gone through during the COVID crisis, because that was asked, and also how I've settled into a full-time mode of working, if you can be charitable enough to call it that. So one question I had was, it says how the number of views, likes and subscribers has changed after COVID-19 took over from Brexit as the main concern of the media and society in general. Because I've said, in fact I said right at the start, if you go right back to when I actually probably did a video on the first 1,000 subscribers, and then after that every 5,000 marker. And even I seem to remember on the 5,000 subscribers mark over a year ago now. And I was saying, there's going to come a point. I was obviously doing a lot of Brexit stuff, and it wasn't intended to be a Brexit channel. It's a political channel with a particular eye on politics that would affect British politics. And Brexit was all encompassing. It still really is. It's just that, let's face facts, as momentous as Brexit is for the country, COVID is much more so. And it's also intensely political in the way in which it's been approached in this country. But what it meant was, what I always said is, Brexit at some point is going to go away. Not necessarily overnight. It'll likely be, because I was doing Brexit videos, like, it wasn't always on Brexit, but most videos were on Brexit, and several times a day. And you were going to get to a point where maybe there'd be a few things to talk about a week, and then maybe once every now and then. And then COVID came along, and actually it almost was like an overnight thing. And it was quite challenging to begin with, because first of all, I was mostly then talking about what was, another big topic, COVID. And it was a new topic. So again, whether people would come across my channel to view that commentary was debatable to begin with. And there were a few other little things as well. Like YouTube to begin with thought, oh, you're talking about COVID. Yeah, you're not monetizing that, because apparently that breaches their guidelines. They've never been really clear. They've been clear about which guideline it breaches, but it's basically the guideline that says anything that might be a bit dodgy. And they don't really explain how it's dodgy. But apparently then, so that was tricky. And apparently because it was new, we couldn't talk about it. But then once it became established as an ongoing thing, they said, okay, you can now monetize it. And they announced that sometime ahead of being able to do it. So then that's okay as well. But yeah, the bottom line is, you can see from these charts in actual fact. So what these, at the top, I've got 2 charts here. The bottom one is actually subscribers, because I was asked about how subscribers have gone. You can sort of see that. That's like a daily little thing for the whole of 2020. But the ones at the top, a pie chart, starts, on the left with January, and it goes through to May. May is obviously still ongoing. And what I do, I like my data, and I track all sorts of things, and I have a spreadsheet with all sorts of tabs for all sorts of wonderful things. I probably spend far too long populating it with bits of data for my analyses, which generally speaking don't even translate into much of an editorial process. But I do it anyway, because I like to analyze things. But these pie charts are just simply, on each day I note down how many views I've had on that particular day, and on other bits and pieces. And these are the views, and those color coded. So basically, if I have, up to so many views is red. That's rubbish. Why would you quit your job for this if this is going to be the norm? Amber, orangey amber, is okay. That's fine. It's not brilliant, but it's fine. It's okay. Green means decent. That's all right. If that was going to be the norm, perfectly happy with that. But purple's really where I want it to be. Purple is, that's good. We're going well here. And so what you can sort of see, I say what you can sort of see, I need to actually look at it myself because I've hidden it from myself, is so January, quite a lot of amber. Now, it was, what would have normally happened is I had a long run up to going full-time. But I wasn't actually ready ultimately on the 1st of January because I had a girlfriend and I was at hers over Christmas and stuff like that. So actually properly building up to full-time was a little tricky. Plus, in addition, I'd taken a part-time cover job at a college as well, just doing a couple of lessons. So that interfered with that. So it took me a little time to find my feet in the full-time thing. And I think that showed in January. But then February, absolutely fantastic. I suppose another thing that helped in February was the fact that Brexit loomed large again. Bizarrely, because sensible countries were treating COVID seriously, but in this country it was all very Brexity, so that's what I was commentating on. Then of course COVID hit sort of March. March actually looks really weird because it's like, well, there's a decent chunk of purple there, there's a decent chunk of green, there's a big old chunk of orange. It started off very, very well, March, and then we got towards the point where the governments had to start politicising COVID because of their response was going to be clearly inadequate. And so that became the big political story of the day. And then it sort of did go down. It was a big dip. April, as you can see, pretty crap. April was the low point. But then, as you can see, May, it's picked up again. And I say, and there's all sorts of potential reasons for this. I think it's really down to the fact that the focus is less so on COVID. Almost all of my videos have COVID mentioned in them, even this one, for goodness sake. And but also it's much more now about the government's performance. When I first started talking about it, and I was talking about the government's performance, you have an awful lot of people going, well, give them chance. No one really knows what they're doing. How do you know the government's response isn't the correct one? Well, my response was, because they're not following the science, which they keep insisting they are. It's clear that they were not. Whereas now I think you've got to the point where it's actually, do you know what? The government have made a right arse of this. And it just gets more and more of an arse made of it. And I think also, of course, what has definitely helped, and I'm not saying it would have been much different without them, but what has definitely helped is with Keir Starmer becoming Labour leader, there is now much more renewed interest in political battles in the UK, from the UK. And then in terms of subscribers, it very much goes up and down. I mean, this 45k subscribers came, you can't really predict it. It's not smooth. You can see like that from this. This time last week, I didn't think I was heading towards 45,000 subscribers, and now here we are. And this often happens. You just get a little period where it's nice and steady, nice and steady. You notice it's not gone into negative in there. Every day I always get a net gain in subscribers. You always lose subscribers. And the more subscribers you have, the more you lose. But, it's still on an upward trend, which is absolutely fantastic and surprises no one more than me. But you can see over the last week, a bit of an old explosion there. I actually don't really know what the reason for that is. The last week has actually been, in fact, a good chunk of that purple for May is basically the last week. And I don't know, obviously individual videos have done very well. Videos on Boris Johnson and Keir Starmer's battles, videos on the government's coronavirus measures are, sometimes do very well, sometimes not so much. It's very hit and miss, that. And of course, Brexit is starting to become a bit more of a topic again, of course, because we're entering the crunch phase. We're entering the period of time, which I will be talking about in the next couple of weeks, where the government said, and it's still official government policy as far as we know, that if it doesn't look like we're going to get a deal next month, then they're going to walk away from the talks. That's what they say. I suspect they won't. I suspect they'll just change what they said. But there we go. So the channel is doing well enough. It had a low point in April, but even then, that low point was still these colour codings are not like properly considered. The ranges I have for them are not properly considered. They're just, basically, I define red as anything, if it's going to be in the red, then we're not even going to give this a crack. That's a disaster. If it's in the orange, it's like, well, it's not really sustainable long term, but you give it time to grow. If it's green, absolutely sustainable, and if it's purple, at that point, you know, it's really good. Doesn't necessarily mean that if it continues to be a lot of purple like this, that I will be thinking, oh, there's no point in going back to teaching. In actual fact, remember, you may not know, I went full-time, not because I was desperate to go full-time. It is very nice. I'm going to talk about the old pattern of life as a full-time YouTuber in a minute. It's very nice. But it was really because of a management decision that was going to impact my department. I didn't agree with, you know, no hard feelings. It's the senior manager's decisions at the end of the day. That's fine. I just didn't agree with it. Ordinarily, I'd have gone, well, it's time to start looking for another job. But you know what? I had this and I thought, well, the danger with looking for another job is you sometimes take a job that actually isn't an improvement. So I thought, well, I'll do this and then see if, you know, and that way I'll make a more considered judgment. And I'm doing a little bit of part-time work at another college. Very nice. Enjoying it immensely. And I'll be doing some more cover teaching at that college in the next academic year as well. So how that will affect the channel, I'll keep you up to date with. But I will still be doing some teaching next year. In fact, a little bit more from September. So we'll see what happens then. But for now, I'm basically full time because we're coming up to summer as well. So then I had a question. What was the next question? It was about more, you know, asking for more behind the scenes stuff about my workflow, how I research and life as a YouTuber. So go through those. So this is the setup in my girlfriend's dining room, which has been repurposed as my little studio. The Watsits are absolutely vital, by the way, as is the Cherryade. Not Vimto on this occasion. Live YouTube, well, I'll just go through the week, really, I suppose. Now, for me, I treat the start of the week as a Sunday. Now, the reason for that, before I moved into my girlfriend's, because the pattern of life has changed, I would come to my girlfriend's on a Friday evening, stay the weekend, go back on a Sunday, because Sunday is actually my busy day. It's my busiest day of the week. And then the week would begin. She'd come round to mine on Wednesday evenings. So I'd have to fit my schedule around that notion that I wouldn't be doing anything on a Saturday or a Friday evening or a Sunday morning or a Wednesday evening. Whereas now it's not really the case. So I'm less tight on my scheduling now. I get quite lazy. Another thing that's helped me, because at the start of the COVID, like I was talking about, YouTube was very, very funny. And what I was having to do to have any hope of getting I had a lot of stuff demonetized. It was a carnage. But in order to try and get some things demonetized, I would dance around the subject, talking about it, but dancing around it. But also I'd have to schedule it a couple of days in advance a lot of the time. Now that's a problem with a story that could potentially change in those couple of days. And a couple of times I did come a cropper. But the reason for that is because if the algorithm demonetized it, I needed to have that time for it to be manually reviewed. When I get stuff manually reviewed, it's almost always clean. There's like a few occasions, and I never know why, when it's not, but it's very rare. Most of the time it comes back clean. But it's no good getting reviewed and coming back clean once it's already gone public, because you've lost all your money. You get all your money and your views in the first 24 hours, really. Whereas now it's the algorithm's behaving itself a lot better. Occasionally, very occasionally, I get one that's flagged and I have to get it reviewed. And even then, the reviewing, actually YouTube have improved their systems over this time. So the reviewing is quicker now, but also it happens very, very little. So I can actually produce a video and whack it out sometimes the same day. Sometimes I am doing videos for just a few hours later that day. And it's great to be able to do that, because you can do much more sort of up-to-date news as well. But what it means is I'm not having to stick to a schedule as tightly as I did. As long as I get the right number, I do 19 videos a week at the moment. It'll be 20 this week with this one, because this is an additional. Now, so Sunday now is I get my Monday videos done. I still treat it as the start of the week. So Sunday, I prepare and do the 3 videos for Monday, which usually involves the political post box and 2 other videos. And then I do a live stream for patrons on Patreon. I do one a month for like most patrons, and then one most weeks for a higher tier up. So that's a couple of hours doing that, and then I usually gaming stuff in the evenings, and then Monday. Now Monday is one of the days when I do some cover class, which I'm doing remotely at the moment. So when I've got my class time, obviously I'm here, but doing that, I'm communicating with students, making sure that they're getting the learning they need. But then, and that's in the afternoon on a Monday. So in the morning is when I need to get a bit of work done, to get some videos done for the next day. Now I would normally say my schedule is to get 3 done. So on Sunday I do 3 for Monday, that has to be done. But then on a Monday do 3 for the Tuesday, do all the videos for the Tuesday. That sometimes is and sometimes isn't, because the nature of the way I work now means I can go into the evenings, or I can even go into the next day, and then that's fine. Tuesday is just entirely spent on this and whatever else. When I try and get 4 videos done, so you try and get a little bit ahead at that point as well. So trying to pick topics. Wednesday is definitely a day at the moment where one video is coming out the same day, because as PMQs has become a little bit fiery, well, not fire, that's the wrong word, interesting, should we say, interesting, then I'm trying to do that ASAP. Now at the moment I can do that because I do my class on a morning, which means I have the afternoon to spend on the channel. Now if there comes a point after summer and Prime Minister's Questions is still being interesting, because I'm not necessarily committing myself to doing those every week, I don't want to get into a point where I just do them out of habit, and if they go a bit dull, I'm just trying to generate interest where there is none. But if I end up working on Wednesday afternoons, then there's going to be a situation where if I do it the same day, it would have to come out in the evening. That wouldn't work brilliantly. So it may well be that those ones have to come out first thing Thursday. Just thinking about like tomorrow's videos, which I haven't done. I would normally have done by now, but it's just as well I haven't, because the Dominic Cummings story is broken big. So what I'm having to think about that in terms of research, that will be coming out for 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. But what angle to take, because there's so many angles you could take with something like that, and to keep it in a video that doesn't go on and on as long as this one probably is doing, I've not kept an eye on the time, is going to be quite significant. So I have to think about what is my focus. So my research basically takes the form of, first of all, I follow quite a lot of people on Twitter in the know, sources, you might say. Then I spend some time reading online media, the newspapers online and other news media as well. Small amount of foreign media, Irish, American, Australian, sometimes, even German media sometimes. But mostly Irish and American in terms of foreign media, just to try and get another perspective on things. And then, and you start to note down stories that are interesting, and then when I've come up with the stories that would be interesting for me to do, then I try and think, right, what would be interesting for others to do? Because sometimes I will just do a topic, and I know it's not going to be that popular, but I just want to talk about it, and I'll get it out there. But yeah, it's a nice, easy way to do it, because now that I'm living with my girlfriend and I can do things at any time, I don't have to fit into a schedule. It's so much more relaxed, because you can just be there, browsing on. I can just sat there with Sarah, browsing on Twitter and go, oh, that's interesting. Sometimes it'll be so interesting, I think it'll just spark an idea or something, or I'll come to my computer, do a little bit, and then go back, or go and play with the pug, something like that, who are still as dumb as hell. So it's it's a lot of hours, don't get me wrong, it is a lot of hours. And it is work, because some days, it's like anything else, some days I'll just get up and I can't be doing with it. But the beauty of it is, if I can't be doing with it, if it's a day when I'm supposed to do 4 because it's Tuesday or something, which happened this week, I just do 2, and then the next I catch up later on when I am feeling it a bit more. Sometimes as well you get a situation where the news, in terms of the stories that I know would be ideal for my channel, there's not that much, and I don't want to force the issue. But then you think to yourself, maybe tomorrow there'll be a real explosion. So then you do the minimum, and then the next day, and sometimes there is. In fact, when you've got a Boris Johnson government, you're never far away from a big story, are you? Never far away from something to commentate on. But it is, you can sort of see why, you get a lot of people, teenagers in particular, who try and write rubbish, vlogs and stuff like that, because they see people online and go, making a living just by talking at the internet. Absolutely fantastic. And they'll see, the influencers that they follow who are just basically talking about their own lives. I mean, I wouldn't get away with that. And doing really well out of it. They thought, well, I can do that. And then they try talking about their lives, and then no one's interested because actually their lives are a lot duller than they seem to think it is. And that's when you start to see people doing the more extreme things. My girlfriend was showing me the thing on Facebook or Twitter or wherever it was. She tends to use Facebook. I tend to like Twitter more. Of a guy with a corn cob on a drill. I don't know whether you've seen it. He's going like that and breaks his front teeth. You had the much more disastrous situation a year or two ago, didn't you, with the woman who shot her husband because they wanted to do a stunt where he holds a book in front of him. They didn't bother trying it out in advance, and guess what? He went straight through the book and straight through him. So you get these people who, their initial attempts, but so they do something stupid to try and get the views, and of course it's because it can be quite a nice life. You've got the pressure on the one hand when it's not going well. You think, because you don't have a stable income. Like at work, you can have bad times and good times, but you're still getting paid. You've got a stable income, as long as your job's stable, that is, which these days is another matter. So, for example, when, I was in, late March, April time, and it was very difficult. The views were tricky, but also the rate, because of two things. One, the demonetization before YouTube sorted it all out. But two, obviously the arse has fallen out of the economy. You get paid, in terms of the portion of my income now that comes from AdSense, comes from people auctioning. The ads are not sold at a set price, they're auctioned. And obviously, fewer businesses were paying those ads. It has actually gone up a little bit. Part of the reason it's gone up a bit as well now is because, as people will have noticed, I have had to put some mid-roll ads in some videos, which is disappointing, but it was an absolute disaster. But also I think the economy's creeping back up again and more people are getting into the ads. But then that might go back again if, the government make a right arse of it and we have to go back into a harsher lockdown. Then that could kill that off as well. So you have got that side of it. Every day is another headache, another, bit of stress. Oh, how's it? And on every day it's like, how's today going to go? But at the same time, the actual mode of life, when it's going okay, and it's going okay, and it has been going okay. Even January, which looked bad, wasn't bad. It was just, but it was still all right. And it's a nice pattern of life. You can get up when you want. I still tend to get up quite early because my girlfriend goes to bed early, so I go to bed at the same time. So my sleeping pattern has changed, which is fine. It works. But I can just sit here talking at you, and then I'll go off and I'll have another little think about a story, and I'll later today write the stories and record the stories for tomorrow in my own time. It means I'm working 7 days a week and I'm working evenings, but it's not like I'm working from dawn till dusk. I'm mixing it in with other things I enjoy doing as well, and I can just work as long as I need to and then go play some games. Or I'll tell you another thing that's helping me do is because I'm the cook in the household, really. Well, for her daughters are gone vegetarian, so they can do their own rubbish. But I'm cooking for Sarah, so that's quite nice that I'm here now. It means we can have properly cooked. We have a properly cooked tea every day, which I do. Sunday's the main exception to that because that is my busy day. So whatever I do today will be leftovers to be heated up tomorrow. But there you go. I think I've probably talked at you long enough. That is hopefully answering those questions. As I say, there are some interesting personal political questions that people ask, which I may do. May not be for tomorrow. Maybe later though. Maybe next weekend or something. We'll see how it goes. But thank you very much again anyway for everyone who has subscribed. Welcome to the channel if you've only just subscribed. Hope you enjoy your time here. And until next time, I'll see you later.